There comes a time in life when a parent who once stood tall with strength and purpose slowly begins to fade into the background. Not because they've lost their worth, but because the world around them stopped noticing. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a quiet shift, a slow silence. At first, it's just little things: a phone call not returned, a message left on read, a family dinner missed. But then, you start feeling it in your bones. The same child you once carried in your arms now walks past you with distracted eyes. The one who once cried for your embrace now sighs when you speak. And you begin to wonder, when did my voice stop mattering? When did my presence become optional? You think back to the years you gave without asking for anything in return. The sleepless nights, the sacrifices, the meals you skipped just to make sure they had enough. You remember waiting at the school gate in the pouring rain. You remember hiding your tears when they were hurting, so they'd feel strong. You remember doing without, so they could have what you never did. You gave everything, not for recognition, not for applause, but because that's what love does. But now, that same love feels one-sided. That same bond feels stretched too thin. They don't mean to hurt you, at least not always. They're busy, they're distracted, they're living lives you helped them build. But the silence still hurts. The dismissiveness cuts deeper than any wound. You want to scream sometimes, "Don't you see me? Don't you remember what I gave up for you?" But you don't. Because you're afraid. Afraid that speaking your truth will drive them further away. So you stay quiet. You smile through the ache. You pretend you're okay. But inside, there's grief. Not for death, but for distance. Not for what was lost, but for what's slipping away. You don't want pity. You don't want guilt. All you've ever wanted is to feel seen, to feel valued, to feel respected. But here's the truth. Respect is not given because you loved hard. It's not automatic just because you're a parent. Respect is earned every day, not just by what you did in the past, but by how you carry yourself now. And maybe, just maybe, the first step to regaining their respect is to stop waiting for it. Stop shrinking to keep the peace. Stop saying yes when your heart says no. Stop giving everything, hoping one day they'll notice. You are not just their parent. You are a person with dreams, with needs, with boundaries. The more you chase their attention, the more invisible you become. So pull back, not with anger, not with punishment, but with dignity. Speak less when they don't listen. Protect your time when it's not respected. Give only when it's appreciated. And most importantly, start living for yourself. Pick up the hobbies you once loved. Reignite the friendships you let fade. Read, walk, laugh, not because it will bring them closer, but because you deserve it. You've earned peace. You've earned joy. You've earned a life that doesn't revolve around whether they call or not. And here's what will happen when you stop making them the center of your world. They'll begin to orbit back to yours. When they see you strong, self-sufficient, content, they will feel the weight of your absence. They will realize what your presence meant. And if they don't, you'll still be okay. because you'll have rebuilt your strength from within. Respect isn't begged for. It's not guilted into existence. It is inspired by your calm, your grace, your unshakable self-worth. So if you're sitting in silence, waiting by a phone that doesn't ring, don't waste another second wondering if you matter. You do. You always have. But now, it's time to matter to yourself again. This chapter of your life isn't the end. It's a beginning. Not of loneliness, but of rediscovery. Not of resentment, but of resilience. Yes, you will always be a parent. That role never ends. But you are also so much more than that. A soul, a story, a spirit that deserves light, even when the world forgets to shine it your way. So breathe, stand tall, and remember, you don't need to be needed to be worthy. You don't need to be noticed to be valuable. And you don't need to be respected to respect yourself. But when you start doing it, when you start showing up for you, they will see it. And slowly, quietly, without force, they may return. Not because you asked, not because you demanded, but because you showed them what true strength looks like. A quiet strength. A graceful strength. The strength of a parent who finally remembered their own worth. There comes a moment in life when the silence from your children becomes louder than any words you ever shared. It's not the kind of silence that feels peaceful. It's the kind that aches. You raised them. You held their hands through life's storms. You gave them your time, your strength, your sacrifices, things they'll never fully understand, not until they have children of their own. But now, when you need their voice, their presence, their warmth, you're met with indifference or worse, distance. Not because you weren't a good parent, but because sometimes people, even your own children, forget that love doesn't end with adulthood. Respect doesn't expire when they move out. You find yourself sitting quietly in your room, phone in hand, wondering if they'll call. Wondering if they even think of you. And when they don't, you tell yourself it's okay. They're busy. They're building their lives. But deep down, there's a bruise on your heart that doesn't go away. You replay memories. The birthdays you planned, the tears you wiped, the nights you didn't sleep, the times you chose their happiness over your own. And now, all you want is a little time, a conversation, a gesture. But somehow, even that feels like too much to ask. And it hurts more than you're willing to admit. Because this isn't just about being ignored. It's about being invisible. About feeling like you've been shelved useful once, but not needed now. You begin to question yourself. Did I do too much? Did I not teach them gratitude? Were my sacrifices taken for granted? But here's what I want you to hear clearly and without doubt. Your worth is not defined by how your children treat you. Your value isn't based on how often they call, how much they appreciate, or whether they remember everything you've done. Your value is already within you. It always was. And just because they've forgotten doesn't mean you have to. You don't need to beg for space in anyone's life, not even your children's. Love that is real, respect that is genuine, never has to be chased. So if you've been chasing their attention, waiting for their appreciation, and wearing your pain in silence, maybe it's time for a shift. Maybe it's time to stop waiting for them to change and start rediscovering the person you were before you gave everything away. Because you are still here. You still matter. You are more than a title, more than mom, more than dad. You are a human being with dreams that still live inside you. You have a heart that still longs to be seen, not just as a parent, but as a person. And yes, it's hard, because you never imagined a day would come when your children would treat you like an afterthought. But sometimes that pain becomes a mirror, not to show you how unloved you are, but to reflect how much love you still have to give to yourself. This isn't about turning your back on your children. It's about turning your face toward the light you've forgotten. Start small. Do one thing that brings you joy, something that has nothing to do with them. Reconnect with an old friend. Take a walk with no destination. Pick up the hobby you once loved but put away when life got too busy. Not because you're trying to fill a void, but because you deserve a full life, not just the leftovers. You see, sometimes your children won't see your value until you start living like you know it yourself. Sometimes they won't hear you until you stop speaking from a place of need and start speaking from a place of self-worth. And no, you don't have to be cold. You don't have to shut them out. But you do need to stop accepting less than what your heart deserves. Set boundaries. Speak your truth calmly but firmly. When they speak with disrespect, you don't have to shout. But you do have to say, "This isn't okay." And if they don't listen, you walk away, not out of anger, but out of love for yourself. Because teaching them how to treat you starts with how you treat yourself. And don't underestimate the power of distance. Sometimes the space you create will become the silence that teaches them. Sometimes the absence of your presence will be louder than all your words. And if they reach out, truly reach out, welcome them. But don't shrink yourself just to keep them close. Don't forget who you are, just to be needed again. You raised them with love. You stood by them when they were lost. You believed in them when they doubted themselves. And now, it's your turn to believe in yourself, to nurture your own soul, to give yourself the patience, compassion, and care you've given others for so long. Because here's the truth most people don't say out loud. Parents need love too. Parents need respect too. And while children grow up and grow away, your heart doesn't stop needing to be held, not with pity, but with presence. And if they can't offer you that, it's okay to stop waiting. It's okay to stop hoping they'll be someone they're not ready to be. Your story doesn't end when theirs begins. Your life is not on pause just because they're too busy to notice. So live fully, proudly, boldly. Let them see a version of you that doesn't beg for attention, but commands quiet admiration. Let them see the fire in you that still burns, not because you need them, but because you've finally remembered yourself. And maybe, just maybe, when they see you living, they'll start remembering. They'll see you not as someone waiting on the sidelines, but as someone worth coming home to. Not because you demanded it, but because you inspired it. So today, take your power back. Not to hurt them, not to punish them, but to heal yourself. You are not forgotten. You are not done. You are not invisible. You are still becoming. And the best version of you, the one who loves freely, lives deeply, and stands proudly, is still ahead.